Hi, I'm Mike, and in this short video series, I'll be talking about behind the scenes of The Vanishing of Vivienne Cameron, the latest podcast from Casefile Presents, which I co-produced. The Vanishing of Vivienne Cameron is the latest podcast from Casefile Presents. Vikki Petraitis co-wrote the book The Phillip Island Murder with journalist Paul Daley. The story that captivated Vikki from the first time she heard of it has had a similar effect on the people worldwide. Long after the book went out of print, people would stumble upon it in the second-hand stores and then contact Vikki. The interest has never really died down. The Phillip Island Murder was featured on an episode Sensing Murder in 2005 and then became Case 80 Beth Barnard on Casefile in 2018. Casefile Presents asked Vikki to explore the case in a long-form series. The podcast is available now exclusively on Spotify, so check it out. Links in the description below. Hi, I'm Mike, producer of Casefile True Crime and Casefile Presents shows. On this channel I'm releasing videos on podcasting, audio production and what it's like to be a podcast producer. So if you enjoy the content, hit subscribe and notification buttons. The podcast is 10 episodes in total, and that's ranging between 40 minutes to 1 hour in length. And I went for Casefile style of scoring, that is having background music throughout the series. And that meant quite a lot of hours of music. And it seems like a lot of work, but I had a few tricks up my sleeve. First of all, remember that we've already done this case in 2018 as Case 80 Beth Barnard on Casefile. Therefore, I had the music that I initially wrote for that episode. Using the old music would be too obvious, but I also kept the MIDI files. So I imported the MIDI compositions, and from there I created completely new cues with new textures. So it's a throwback to the old episode, but with a new spin. And the cues were slow and ambient, perfect for background music. On top of that, I wrote 4 new cues that were more melodic, more distinctive. And these were the main cues for the series, and the ones that be a little bit more louder, but also open and close each episode. I made 4 versions of each cue, and that gave me a lot of freedom to play with textures. And I really liked the mixture of old and new music, and I think that worked perfectly well for this series. The plan for scoring was pretty straightforward, so I had 4 versions of each cue, and in episode 1 I would use version 1, in episode 2 version 2, episode 3 version 3. Then, by the time I got to episode 5, I would go back to version 1 and repeat the process. And for the last 2 episodes, episode 9 and 10, I'll just mix and match. It may seem a little bit cheeky, but it also means that the listener does not feel that the score is repeated, because by the time they get to episode 5, they already forgot how episode 1 sounded, and it sounds all fresh again. And then, of course, for each episode, I mixed the cues within the timeline with the textures that worked for that moment, and that also created variety. However, I always opened each episode and closed each episode with the same cue that I decided would be the main theme for the whole series. And when the cues were ready, on tracks, and fitted the timeline, I started the mixes. For mixing, I used my M+ Icon platform with motorized faders, which now I replaced and upgraded to Avid S1, and I mixed on my AKG K712 Pro headphones. Each cue has between 6 and 8 textures that are placed on stereo audio tracks. Now, before I start the mix, I run a mix assistant within Neutron plugin to bring out the best from each track. I then use faders and volume automation to mix the music with all the dialogues running at the same time. And once the cue was mixed, I then bounce it down to a stereo track and place on a score channel. Now, when all the cues are mixed and bounced down to a stereo track and placed on that score channel, I then use a single fader and write the automation as well, and that's to fit the music better to the dialogues, to the narration. However, because I mixed the cue before, this is more of a nuanced process, so there's just a bit of tweaking and adjusting. It's nothing outrageous. With the music for podcasts, it's all about constraints and being restrictive. Now, what do I mean by that? It's like scoring a movie. The music's there to help to tell the story and not to distract from it. Also, in podcasts, you don't have a picture that would, help you when there's a bad or overwhelming audio. With music for podcasts, everything's audible, visible there on the plate. So, making sure that the music helps to convey the emotion and not distract the listener is the priority. Also, think about who's the listener. How are they listening? More than likely, they will listen on their phones with their earbud headphones in. So, making sure that the music sounds good on these consumer headphones is also important. When I started working on the series, I wasn't sure about the idea of a theme. The initial idea was to start each episode with a different cue, or maybe the same cue but a different version, and have no theme at all. So you would have the episode start after the initial intro music ended. And I have mixed and prepped the first episode like that. But then our Casefile host asked me if I could try to come up with a little theme as well. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think that creating these 30 seconds themes or jingles is my strength, but I did take on the challenge. First of all, how do I approach this kind of a project? Where do I start? What kind of style I go for? These were the questions that were going in my head. I then had the perfect idea. I really like the ending of the main cue that I wrote for the series, the one with the kind of fast chord progression. And I thought, what if that bit was the theme music for the series? That sort of fast arpeggio. So I've isolated that bit of the cue. I've then adjusted it so it sounded as a close-ended 30-second theme, and it kind of worked. So I've used oversaturated piano for the theme as well to give it a little bit of an edge. Let's have a listen. I reckon it works because not only it's a nice melody, but it's also connected to the score and the main theme for the series. So in the end, I decided to keep that theme in every episode and was very pleased with the result. In the next episode, I'll be talking about mixing the Vanishing of Vivienne Cameron podcast. Don't forget to check out the show, available now, free on Spotify. Subscribe, share, leave your review. But that's it for today. I'm Mike from Mike Vigas Production. If you enjoy this kind of videos, check the rest of my channel as well as my website, mikemigas.com. For now, share, like, subscribe, and I'll see you later.